Hello there. With update 206 for Space Engineers being just around the corner with the titled Fieldwork, I've been given the opportunity to preview some of the quality of life features coming with this update, which is actually only releasing in 4 days. Now, I highly recommend tuning into the release stream, which is going to be 5 p.m. UTC on Monday, April 28th. And make sure to check out some of the other creators that are doing previews as well. Links will be down in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into it. One of the main quality of life improvements we're getting this update is the ability to set values for different actions. Now we're getting this for 4 different types of blocks for now, which are the thrusters, wheel suspension, lights, and the AI flight block. Now, what do I mean by set value? Let's demonstrate this by setting the color for lights, for example. So, with our lights, we now have 3 new options. We can set radius, we can set blink interval, and we can set color. If we choose to set color, we can now adjust and specifically set what type of color we want the light to change to. So let's, for example, pick this lime green. Or, according to SE, it's a yellow green, but you're able to set the value and then assign this a specific name. Now, Space Engineers will suggest names automatically, which is pretty nice. So then we add this down onto the hotbar, and then we hit the button, and now it's a yellow-green. These options also work with hotbars in cockpits, alongside timer blocks, or anything that really has a hotbar. So if you want to now set your lights to be able to have a party, you now can. I know this is a very slow party, but you get the gist of it. Now the same can be done for the AI flight block. So if we go into our button panel here and locate the AI flight move, drag that down, we can see that we can now set a speed limit, which is going to be incredibly useful for when you want to dynamically alter the speed for when the drone is trying to dock or following certain waypoints. You then set the speed limit, and in this case it is meters per second, so if we put the number 20 in, that is going to change the speed limit of the AI flight controller to 20 meters per second. We can see that by going into our cargo container here, scrolling down, and there you go, speed limit is set to 20 ms. When it comes to the propulsion override for things like thrusters, it works in a percentage. So if we drag down our reverse thrusters, we can see here that we can now set a override percentage. By hitting that, let's say we put this to 20. We can give it a custom name, hit OK, and then the override is set to 20%. Now keep in mind, this is 20% of the maximum value. We also have the very same option for wheel suspensions. If we hop into our seat here and drag our wheels down onto the hotbar, we can see that we now have 2 new options where we can set the propulsion override specifically, or we can set steer override. So if we do steer override in this instance, let's set this to 100%. You can now see that it sets the override to 100%. Keep in mind that this percentage is actually relative to your maximum values for the wheel suspension. Another quality of life improvement that we're getting with this update is a terrain clearing mode for drills. Now what does this mean? If you go into your control panel and locate your drills, you can see that there is now a brand new checkbox at the very bottom. Now it'll give a little description here, but basically, when this option is toggled on, if you have your drills set up so that you can toggle the block on and off, instead of harvesting material, it'll start clearing terrain. Now this option does not affect left clicking. So if you want to be able to just clear the terrain by hitting one button and then just flying forward, now you can. Another small but nice quality of life improvement is the improvement to Event Controller Action Slot UI. So we can see down here now there are actually icons to clearly indicate which slot belongs to true and which slot belongs to false. Another quality of life improvement is the fact that there are now search options for a bunch of different blocks. So if we have a look at our jump drive, for example, if you have a bunch of GPSs, for instance, and you can't find the one you're looking for by scrolling through the list, you can simply now search in order to find it. And then you can select it and do your jump. You now also have a search option inside the conveyor sorters. Let's say we want to whitelist some stone. Instead of having to scroll through the entire list, we can just search for the material we want to whitelist and then just add it that way. We also got a similar search option for the entity list. So if we just go down here, we can see that there's a whole bunch of grids. I can't find the one I'm looking for. Well, just type in the name and it'll pop right up. As simple as that. Another quality of life improvement that we've gotten is that we can now highlight multiple GPS markers and change different parameters. We can see here there's a whole bunch of GPSs. Instead of having to go and change the colors manually for each and every one, I can now highlight multiple GPSs and toggle whether I want them to show on HUD, always be visible, change their colors. You can, of course, not really change the names because multiple GPS entries are selected. The same goes for descriptions and coordinates. But you can at least now show on HUD and toggle them always visible, alongside with changing the colors for multiple GPSs at the same time. In addition to being able to change the color and set these values, you can now also delete multiple GPSs at once. No longer do you have to click through all of them and delete them one by one. You can just do a mass delete of the GPSs you want. Another quality of life improvement added with this update is that they've added a whole bunch of new keyboard binding modifiers in the control settings. They've added 3 new categories, including grids and objects, toolbar pages, and screens and menus, where you can now change the keybinds to basically everything now, which you really couldn't before. And that also includes getting SE2 block rotation in SE1. Because currently, if you want to rotate blocks, you have to use insert, home, page up, page down. You have to use all those keybinds, which is not really that efficient. So if you want to be able to have the SE2 controls, just go into controls, go into a block placement, and here you can actually add that under keyboard 2. Select one of the options, hold down control, and then in this case we're going to hit D, and then fill that in for all of the other options. Now you can also bind this to anything else that you want. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to bind this to Control L, Control J, I, K, U, and O, just to demonstrate. You hit OK, make sure you hit OK, because otherwise it won't save. And then now, if I hold down Control, I can now rotate the blocks with Control, UIO, so on and so forth. So you can really configure this to whatever you may desire. You can also use Alt to achieve the same effect. So now, instead of holding down Control, we hold down Alt, and we can rotate the blocks. Simple as that. You can do the same with Shift, and you can customize this to be however you want it to be. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this block rotation, it'll only rotate 90 degrees. You cannot rotate it smoothly like you can with the normal keybinds. If you choose to go with the SE2 route, you'll only be able to rotate them 90 degrees and not have any smooth rotation like this. So in addition to being able to now configure block placement a bit more than you could previously, they've also added a whole bunch of key binding options, which I'll go ahead and read out now. You can now keybind the following: toggle relative dampening, remote access, power switch on off, quick pick color, export model, quick load and quick save, opening the warning screen, opening the player screen, opening the blueprint screen, opening the admin menu, opening the spawn menu, creating blueprint detached, creating blueprint with locks, copying object detach, copy with locks, paste object detached, cut object with locks, delete object detached, delete with locks. All of these key bindings were not changeable before, but now you can change them to whatever you want. And with the sun setting, that is going to be it for today. Now, once again, highly recommend checking out the release stream, which is going to be on Monday, the 28th of April, 5 p.m. UTC. And check out some of the other creators who've done amazing previews as well. Links will be down in the description. And I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.